Hey, I'm Nate Savage, and I want to share something with you that is going to just absolutely explode your rhythm guitar playing. It's how to play 85 major chords in a very short amount of time. And the cool thing about this is, if you know your open major chords, you already know this. It's just a little bit different way of thinking about it and attacking it. Now, most guitar players, when they first start out, they, learn their open major chords: C, A, D, G, and E. And then, once they've been playing for a while, maybe they'll learn some bar chords like the one that uses the E major shape. And they'll move that around. And then maybe they'll even get into making a bar chord out of the A shape too. And mixing those up. But for some reason, that's as far as a lot of guitar players ever get. And it's unfortunate because if you know your fundamental 5 open major chord shapes, you have the power to really explode your rhythm guitar playing like I'm about to show you. Having said that, most guitar players, if you tell them to play like a 1-4-5 progression in the key of G major, that would be a G, C, and a D chord. They would play something like this. Or if they're into bar chords, they would play something like this. But there's a lot more that you can do here, and all it comes down to is using your C, D, and G major chords, the open versions of those chords, just like your E and A major bar chord shapes that you did. So think about it. When you make this E bar chord shape, you're just moving that E chord all the way up the fretboard, right? Using your index finger as kind of a movable nut. Or if I had a capo right here, it'd be the same thing, right? Now we do the exact same thing with the A. What I'm here to tell you today is you can do the exact same thing with the C major chord, the D major chord, and the G. The problem is that when we try to make bar chords out of our C, D, and G major chord shapes, they can get really difficult. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to take all 5 fundamental shapes, E, A, D, G, and C, and move them up the fretboard. And on the more difficult shapes, I'm going to give you some kind of partial shapes that will help you be able to use these all over the guitar. Now, just to be fair to those that don't know their bar chord shapes yet, we're going to start with an E chord because it's kind of the most universally known. And the first step to being able to use our open E chord to play an F, a G sharp, an A, is to make it with our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers instead of our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers. And it may take you a while to get that down, but treat it just like you're learning a new chord. Just an open E chord with your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers instead of your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Now, something that's important here is to realize where the root notes are in this shape. There's an E there, there's an E on the D string, and there's an E on the high E string. The high E is open too, right? And those are kind of your point of reference for when you're moving this shape around. So make it with those 3 fingers, then scoot it up and slap a bar down, right? And if you don't know your bar chords, that's fine. We have lots of lessons for that on the channel. You can go check out one of those. But when I move that up, this is an F chord now using the E shape, right? There's an F here, there's an F here, and there's an F on the high E string too, so that's kind of your point of reference. And let's do another one. Same exact thing, we're just moving it up another 2 frets, and you got to look at where your root notes are. There's one under your finger here, index finger. There's one under your index finger on the high E string. Those are G notes, so you're playing a G chord using the E shape. There's another G right there, and you want to have those root note locations down. Check out the chord diagram, because that's going to help you when you're moving around to know where you're going. Now, if you don't want to play this entire shape, if you're not into bar chords, or if the musical situation that you're in doesn't call for a huge sounding voicing like that, what you can do is just play part of this chord. And to do this, check out these 3 notes that are already in the shape: pinky, middle finger, index finger on the B string. There's a little mini shape in here, and it's just a triad, G, B, and D, the 3 notes in a G major chord. So you can work on playing that whole shape, or you can visualize just those 3 notes right in a row. That's a great alternative to playing this entire shape. And you can still visualize that E shape in there too, which is great. If you want to, you can collapse your index finger down and even play that highest note on the high E string and just leave the low E and A strings out. You can move that all around. Let's move on to the A chord shape, and this is probably the second most common one out of the 5 shapes. And it's against the same thing. The first step is to make an open A chord with your second, third, and fourth fingers instead of your first, second, and third. So take some time to get that down. But you also want to be aware of where the root notes are in this shape. You're going to see the open A chord diagram, and you're going to see a filled in circle on the A string, 5th string open, and then you're going to see a filled in circle on the 2nd fret of the G string too. Those are your root notes, or kind of your home bases that you need to know so you can move the shape around to play any major chord using the shape all the way up and down the fretboard, right? And if I move this up one whole step and then put my bar down, my root notes are now going to be on a B chord. That means I can play B major chord, right? C, D, back to A, B. Now, if you don't want to play this entire shape, a really easy alternative for this one is to just bar all 3 notes with your index finger that make up the core A shape. Just like you would be doing like right here, right? But there's an A note right there on the G string, and if you slide up one whole step, that A note moves to a B. Now you have to be careful that you don't hit any of the other strings, that you mute them, so only those 3 notes are ringing out. But that's a great alternative to a bar chord if you don't want to play bar chords like on acoustic or something, or if you're just playing along with a piano player, another guitar player, maybe an acoustic player, and they're filling in some of the body for the chord, so, or the whole thing. You can move this anywhere up the fretboard to play any major chord that you need to. All right, on to the area of playing the guitar that a lot of people don't usually get to, and that's the C chord to start with. C, D, and G. Let's start with C though. Now watch this. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the C chord. I'm going to make it with my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers instead of my 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers, and that's nasty enough by itself. Nobody wants to play that. But watch what happens if I slide this up a fret and then put down my bar. That gets even worse. Nobody wants to play this. But it's important that you understand the concept behind this. All we're doing is taking our C major chord, thinking about where our root notes are, which are the 3rd fret of the A string with your 3rd finger, and there's another one here on the B string with your 1st finger. You have to be able to visualize where those are. Check out the black notes on the chord diagram. Make that with your other 3 fingers, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers. And this is really just conceptual at this point. But if I slide that up one whole step and then put that down, where do my root notes end up? They ended up one step higher from a C, which is a D. So I'm playing a D major chord using a C shape. But like I said, that's pretty impractical. I rarely use that chord. If there's a bass player playing with me or a piano player, I'll let them grab the root. And what I'll do is I'll play this chord without the pinky, and that's a lot more manageable. That's not a bad chord to make at all. So that's a new shape that you're going to want to learn. And my reference here is this root note right here. Just like on the C chord, our index finger playing this root back here, the C, we're just sliding this up. So that's a D note right there, and that's kind of my reference. Same thing if I slide this up one more whole step to where my 2nd finger right here is on an E. I'm playing an E major chord using the C shape. I'm just kind of omitting this root right here, so it's a little bit easier to play. And that's an extremely useful shape to have down. Take that one in particular, if you already know your E and A shapes and you're used to making bar chords with them, and move that around the fretboard. That'll help you memorize the names of the notes on the B string. So there's a B major chord all the way up here. Let's see what else I want to do. Maybe I want to play an F chord. There's an F right there. D, E, all the way back down to C. Maybe throw in the low root. I know we're hitting these pretty quick and this is a lot of information, but take your time with this, watch this video as many times as you need to. The next chord is an open D chord. And the root notes on here are the open D string, the 4th string, and the 3rd fret of the B string with your 3rd finger. And those are going to be the notes that you want to focus on, so you can move this around anywhere on the fretboard and play any major chord using this shape. Now, check this out. The exact same thing applies here. You just need to learn to make this chord with your second, third, and fourth fingers, right? So, from there to there. And this one is a little bit tougher for some reason. I've always had a little bit tougher time with it. But if you move this up one whole step, my pinky is now on an E, and my index finger can come back and kind of bar or grab what would be the open D string. And this is an E major chord using the D shape. So D, up a whole step to E. Roots E and E. And if you don't want to make this big stretch, all you have to do is play a D shape. That's great. So E, if you go up another half step, F, whole step, G, A. Now I'm going to go back down here and show you something else real quick. This is just bonus. If I have an E right here, check it out. C shape and the D shape are connected. We'll get into that more later in different videos, but just be able to visualize this D shape, just the shape, no open strings or anything like that, no bars, as a D triad, and then move it around, and wherever your root note lands there, that's what you're going to have, an E major. If you wanted a B flat, and back to a D. The worst for last, or at least the worst shape to play is a bar chord. It's a G major shape. And check it out, we're gonna have the same exact thing here. I already play my open G with my second, third, and fourth fingers, but if you use your first, second, and third fingers, you're gonna wanna experiment with using your second, third, and fourth. But watch, if I move this up a whole step, and I come back down here to make a bar, nobody wants to make that chord shape. That's disgusting, right? So first off, think about where your root notes are. Low E string with your third finger, the open G, and the high E string. I'll show you in a second, but I tend to use the high E string and the open G string to think about the shape. I could do that entire big shape right there. That is moved one whole step up, and a whole step from G is A, and then the bar, that's an A major chord using a G shape, but like I said, nobody wants to play that. So what we can do is just use a partial shape. So forget the low root and the low third right there, and just play the top four strings, right? Now, I said I use the open high E and the G strings as my reference notes for this. So this is an A, and this is an A on the second fret of the G string. So I consider that to be an A chord, an A major chord using the G shape with the lowest root and third just kind of omitted. And a voicing that I like to use a lot requires a double bar. You grab these top two strings with your pinky. It's like making this G chord, right? With the four note version or the four finger version. So you can do that too. And you can move this all over the fretboard. Play any major chord you want. If I move it up one half step, my pinky is going to be on a B flat. So it'll be a B flat major chord using the G shape, and you can visualize the rest of that if you want. Same thing, move it up one more half step. We're on a B, C. So, check this out. A major chord using a G shape, our little partial. But look, there's an A shape right here too, an open A major, just kind of hiding in there. So what you're gonna wanna do is just work on getting the physical coordination of moving that shape around, and then memorizing the notes on the high E string with your pinky, and then on the G string that your index finger is kind of barring there. And that's gonna let you know what chord you're playing. So for example, B, D, E, and be able to visualize that G shape as you do this. This lesson is really just a stepping stone for your rhythm guitar playing. You're developing the visualization skills and the basic physical coordinations of moving these 5 core major open chord shapes up and down the fretboard. And the more time you spend on this and the better that you'll get at it, the more you'll be setting yourself up for some huge wins as far as rhythm and lead guitar playing in the future. And the whole point to getting these different voicings down is that when you get in different musical situations, you may want a different sound. Let's say you're playing with a keyboard player or another guitar player who already has some big open chords going. Or maybe they're playing a, standard E bar chord. You might want something more like this. something a little bit higher so you don't muddy things up, right? If you'd like to see more full, detailed series on topics like these with fun musical applications that help you progress on the guitar, you should visit guitario.com and check out the community there. I'll see you later.